Okay, you guys, so I need you guys to read read it.
Genesis
37 verses 12 through 25, and then after that you're gonna read 2 Samuel verses 1 through 20. All right, you guys. Yeah, God bless. Peace. All right, you guys. So here we are in Genesis 37, verse 12. It starts talking about how Israel sent Joseph to go check up on his brother so that he could give him back a report and see. So Joseph, being responsible and doing what his father told him to do, he went up and to go find his brothers who were in Shechem feeding the flocks. But it says in verse 14, and he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem, and a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? Now remember that. And he said, I seekest my brethren, tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flock. And the man said, They are departed hence. For I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. Now, I do not believe when the man asked. The man just happened to be there. But I do not believe when the man asked Joseph, What seekest thou? That Joseph was really seeking his brethren. I do not believe he was seeking his brothers. I believe what Joseph was seeking was acceptance. We see it more in when we look back before in earlier times in Genesis 37. It says that Joseph, in verse 9 through 11, it talked about how Joseph had dreamed a dream that the moon and the earth and his fathers and his brothers and his mothers would all bow down to Joseph. And it says in verse 11, his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. See, when we are called from the beginning of time, when we are separated from the crowd, sometimes it's hard to be separated from the crowd because you just want to feel that brotherly love. He just wanted to be accepted by his peers around him. I remember growing up and being an out of control teenager, and I did so much stuff to just try to fit in, but yet I could not fit in. It's like trying to do a puzzle, and you try to put the puzzle piece into the puzzle, but it just doesn't fit. It just keeps popping out. Why? Because you're called, you're set apart. And everywhere you look, I remember trying to be accepted by my family, and I tried to be accepted by the friends at school, and try to be accepted when I was locked up in the jails. But it seemed like no matter where I tried to be accepted, I just didn't fit. I just didn't fit because I was never meant to fit. I wrote a poem called Take Off the Disguise, talking about conforming into the way of this world. I used to sit there and conform into the way of this world. The Bible says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed to the renewal of your mind. When we try to conform to the world, it's because we can't conform. Why? And the world will just spit us back out because we're not supposed to fit there. My poem that I wrote called Take Off the Disguise says, Oh, little black sheep, why do you try to paint your wool white? See here, Joseph was a black sheep. He was a black sheep of the family. Why? Because he was supposed to stand out. God wanted to take him places that no one else could be taken, and so he had to stand out for where God needed to bring him. But see, the man said, What seekest thou? And he was seeking acceptance. My whole life, I've been seeking acceptance from everybody around me. But yet, it's like the more I try, the more I just don't fit. Because some people in this life are not created to fit, because God has a bigger purpose. There's things that he sees in you that other people just can't do. I once listened to this lesson that one of my former Bible study teachers was talking about, and it really hit my mind. He said there's some people in this world that can't go through the same things that you go through. For instance, the example that he used was, he said that, you could lose your job and you would just be okay with it. You'd go out and find you a new job, but, losing money wouldn't be so big. But there's people in this world who lose a little bit of money, who lose all their money and don't even think about it. They just kill themselves because they can't take the pressures that you are equipped with. They can't handle that situation. They don't think, there's certain things that people in life just can't handle. And I used to ask myself, Lord, why me? Why do I go through all these things? Why did I have to be on the streets? But there's certain things, if I even, try to explain or express to people, would you want to go through the things that I went through to get here to where I am? And some of them say, well, why do you get blessings like that? And why are you set apart like this? But you wouldn't want to go through the things that I went through to get to where God needed to bring me to get to where I'm at now. A lot of people going through some of the things that I went through would have done lost their mind by now, because I only thank God for his grace and his mercy and his love and his peace of mind, because I sometimes don't even understand how I'm still standing. And so Joseph, he was searching for acceptance, because he just wanted to feel like he was a part of something, but he wasn't supposed to be a part of it, because he had a bigger purpose that God had for him. And so I'm going to post up the first few questions and then we're going to carry on. All right, you guys. Peace. All right, you guys. So we're going to skip over to 2 Samuel chapter 13, read verses 1 through 20, and yeah. So basically what's happening here is there's a woman named Tamar, and she's a virgin, and her brother Amnon is very sick, and he loves her and wants her because she is a virgin and she's pure. And so as we see here, it says in verse 3, but Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shema, David's brother. Now Jonadab was a very crafty man, and he said to him, why are you, the king's son, becoming thinner day after day? Will you not tell me? And this is because it had said in verse 2, Amnon was so distressed over his sister Tamar that he became sick, for she was a virgin, and it was improper for Amnon to do anything unto her. It was improper. It was improper. It was outside of God's law. It was outside of the will of God. God says the marriage bed is undefiled. And in this case, it was even worse because this was his sister. She was saving herself for marriage, but he couldn't see outside of his sin. He couldn't see outside of what was supposed to be kept. He couldn't see out of that because he was sick in his sin. He loved her with a lust, not love, with a lust. He loved her. He lusted her. He didn't love her. He lusted her. And it said, and he said to him, why are you becoming thinner day by day? And Amnon said to her, I love my sister Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. So Jonadab said to her, lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. And when your father comes to see you, say to him, please let my sister Tamar come and give me food, and prepare the food in my sight, that I may see it and eat it from her hand. And Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. And when the king came to see him, Amnon said to the king, please let Tamar, my sister, come and make a couple cakes for me in my sight, that I may eat. And David said unto Tamar, sent Tamar to the home, saying, now go to your brother Amnon's house and prepare food for him. Now here again we see, like in the beginning, Israel sent Joseph to his brothers, and David again sent. The father sent the person who was at threat. The father sent the person who was at threat to the people who were threatening, who were plotting against, to kill, to destroy, to sabotage something that was worth so much. Joseph was worth so much, he was chosen. Tamar's purity was worth so much, but we're going to continue on. And then it says, and David sent home, okay, basically she went over there. And then, so Tamar went to her brother's house and he was lying down, and she took flour and kneaded it, made cakes in the sight and baked the cakes. And she took the pan and placed them out before him, and he refused to eat. And Amnon said, have everyone go out from me. See, that is another thing, this is the second time this has happened. In Joseph, they were in a secluded place. See, they were supposed to be in Shechem, but they were far out in Dothan, where no one was around. No one was around when Joseph got plotted against. And see, no one was around when Tamar got plotted against. See, the enemy just wants you to be by yourself when he plots against you, because he has a plan to destroy you. A plan to destroy you. A plan that if you're all by yourself, then he can get you there. And no one can stop him, because he has the power. And we'll see that. And it says right here, and then she said, and then Amnon said to the Tamar, this is verse 10, bring the food into the bedroom, that I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made and brought them to Amnon her brother. And now when she had brought them to eat, he told her and said to her, come lie with me, my sister. See, the enemy knows that. She's all alone now. No one can help her. But she answered him, saying, no, my brother, do not force me, for such thing should not be done in all Israel. You know these things are wrong. The person knows these things are wrong, but it doesn't matter. Their flesh is stronger than anything. They want that power. See, Joseph's brothers wanted the power of the dream that God was saying to Joseph. They wanted the power. They wanted people to bow down to them. When people see the things that you have, they want them. They want them, but they can't have them. Why? Because, see, Amnon struggled with this lust. He struggled with this lust, but he didn't want to do the things that Tamar was doing. See, Tamar was pure. See, the world doesn't want to live pure. The world doesn't want to do what's right to get this type of life. They see your joy. They see your happiness. They see it. They want it. Why? Because they don't have it, but they won't surrender to God. They won't surrender to God to get what you have, to live this pure and holy life like Tamar was living. In verse 13, And where could I take my shame? Where can I take my shame? And as for you, you would be like one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore please speak to the king, for he will not withhold you from me. She even was willing to marry this man to live a holy life. They were unequally yoked because he was living in his flesh and she was living for God, but she was even willing to ask him to humble himself and go to the king and say, King, let me take this woman, my sister, as my wife so that she could have me. But no, he didn't want that. He only wanted one thing. He only wanted one thing. Verse 14. However, he would not heed to her voice, and being stronger than she, he forced her to lay with her. Then Amon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred with which he hated her was greater than he loved, with which he had loved her, because he lusted after her. And Amnon said to her, Arise and be gone. And she said to him, No, indeed, this evil of sending me away is worse than what you did to me. And he would not listen to her. See, once the world gets what they want, you know, I've lived my life as a Christian girl, trying to stay pure till marriage. And I've known in my times that I used to struggle with lust. And I've slipped, especially when I first got saved. And I fell. And when I fell, there was nothing I could do to make them stay. Because they had what they wanted. See, but they thought I would fulfill their need. They thought they would get what it was out of me that they wanted, but they couldn't. Why? You know why they couldn't? Because they didn't want to surrender to God. They didn't want any of that. They just wanted the joy, the peace that I had, the things that God offers you. The things that God offers you, but they don't want to surrender to God. They don't want to do things right. They'd rather live in their sin and be sick and take what they want, but at the end they'll still be empty because they haven't surrendered their life. They haven't surrendered their life. And he would not listen to her. And then he called his servant who attended him and said, Here, put this woman out, away from me, and bolt the door behind her. Now she had a robe of many colors, just like Joseph did. She had a robe of many colors, this robe that set her apart. That set her apart for the king's virgin daughters, the pure, the upright, those who walked with God. She had this coat of many colors that she wore. Such an apparel, and his servant put her out and bolted the door behind her. And then Tamar put ashes on her head and tore her robe of many colors because of the shame. Because of the shame. And laid her hand on her head and went away crying bitterly. And Absalom, her brother, said to her, "Has Amnon, your brother, been with you?" See, you can't keep that type of stuff a secret. There's a certain pride that you have within you when you're walking with God. This certain walk, I am a child of the king. She was a child of the king. She was David's daughter. She knew her position. She could walk upright, held up high. She was keeping herself to marriage. She was living right. Then Tamar put ashes on her head and tore her robe. And Absalom, her brother, said to her, "Has Amnon, your brother, been with you?" And see, the hardest thing is when the world wants to come in. See, the world, when they know that you have something they don't have, they don't care once they take it from you. It does not matter. And so all you're supposed to do as a believer, as someone who is trusting in God, is to keep your head up high. It said right here, it says, and Absalom, her brother, said to her, "Has your brother been with you? But now hold your peace, my sister. Hold your peace. Hold your peace. Do not take this thing to heart." So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. This woman could never get married because purity was something that they held very high in those days. Very high in those days. But this man came and took something very special from her, and she was supposed to just hold her peace for the rest of her life. She had hopes. She had dreams. She knew what she wanted. She probably wanted to be a wife, a child. She was holding this out, something special for her husband, and there he came and snatched it away from her and threw her away like she was nothing. Like she was nothing. You look at back in Genesis 37 with Joseph. See, Joseph had everything going for him. He had everything going for him. He was chosen child. He was just seeking for acceptance. But he pushed too far into a place where he shouldn't have been. Because we're seeking something. We're seeking something. And sometimes when we go seeking acceptance, we end up with these deep wounds. Tamar sat there by herself for a long time, searching for something that she could never get back. Because he took it from her. He took it from her. See, the same thing happened with Joseph. And when you look in verse 21 of Genesis 37, back to Genesis 37, says, "But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands." See, Reuben, being one of Joseph's brother, delivered Joseph out of his own hands. He saved him from death. And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, but cast him into the pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him." See, they cast him into a pit in the wilderness. A wilderness is a place where you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. They cast him into a pit so he wouldn't go anywhere. They wanted him to remain stuck. They didn't want him to get anywhere, because if they could hinder him from where he was going, where he was going to be, then he would never become what God wanted him to be. See, Tamar was now in the wilderness because she was stuck. She was no longer pure. So she remained in the castle, in the house, for the rest of her life. in the wilderness stuck. Because she couldn't move forward from that place. That place of emptiness. That place of knowing that you had everything going for you and then somebody snatched it from under your feet. Because they wanted what you wanted. They wanted what you had. It says, do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. So they were scared. Someone was going to get word of this. So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic. See? There it is again. That woman Tamar got stripped of her tunic. It came off. And Joseph was stripped of his tunic of many colors that was on him. It says, and they took him to a pit and cast him into an empty pit, and the pit was empty and there was no water in it, and they sat down and ate their meal. When people have you in a place, they got you. You were seeking for acceptance, and now they got you in a low place. You can't go nowhere. Tamar got locked out, and he bolted the door behind her. Got what I wanted, and I kicked you out. Ha! They took his tunic. And then they sat down and ate a meal while he was in the pit. While he was in the pit. They didn't care. They just went on and carried on with their life, and they filled their stomachs, and they not once looked back. They not once looked back. Why would it matter? They got what they wanted, right? See, the world is harsh. And sometimes we have to be careful about what we seek. Because if we seek acceptance, if we go places that we know we shouldn't go, see, Tamar should have been able to trust her brother, but it seemed a bit strange when he kicked everybody out. Why couldn't she feed him with everybody there? Why couldn't anybody be there? She had to be secluded. Because the enemy will get you when you're secluded. See, if Joseph would have just been in Shechem, and his brothers would have been in Shechem, see, that man was there in Shechem. And that man would have been a witness to what was going on. To see him get casted out. But see, he had to go to Dothan. There were no witnesses around to see what was about to happen. And the enemy will get you and seclude you in a place where no one's around. Because of what you're seeking. What you're seeking. Ask yourself today, please, what are you seeking? Is giving up what's right for acceptance, for attention, more important to you than what God has for you? Are you willing to put yourself in danger's way? In harm? I searched for acceptance my whole life. I found myself on the streets, doing things that I should not have done. I remember this one time I wanted to go to a party so bad. I was 14 years old. 14. And I lied and I told this guy I was 18 years old. And my friends were supposed to go to the party with me. And they said they were 17. And the guy got mad at me. First time I had ever met him. But I didn't care. And I got in the car with him. And when I got in the car with him, he was pissed. He was like, don't you ever put me in the car with underage kids. And by that time, I couldn't tell him I was 14. What was I supposed to do? I was underage. And he pulled out a gun on the middle of the highway. I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to do what everybody else was doing. I just wanted to party. I just wanted to run the streets. I just wanted to do what everyone else was doing. I want to be accepted. It's cool, right? It's cool, right? I remember being at the party and going downstairs and calling my friends and asking them, can I come stay at your house? Can I come stay at your house? Because this man wanted to take me home. And I was afraid to lose my life. And see, God protected my friends because they weren't looking for acceptance in that. They gladly went home after they said that they were 17. They gladly went home. But me, no. I had to go home later, the next day, after the man dropped me off in the middle of Boston. The middle of Boston. I had to lay down with this man in his house so that he didn't shoot me or kill me. Because I wanted acceptance so much that I was willing to risk my life. I was willing to risk my life for acceptance. So you got to ask yourself today, is doing everything that the world tells you to do okay? Is it worth it? Because you just want someone to love you. Because you just want to do what's right, so to say. Because not everything that looks right in this world is right. I'm going to honestly tell you guys the truth. The truth. Because we are living in a world that will sell you a false reality. A false reality. I want to ask you guys to think about what you're doing in your life that you will do anything for acceptance. It's time to change today. Because we're no longer going to put ourselves in harm and dangerous way and have to go the long way. See, Joseph got sold into Egypt. His story just doesn't end. Your story just doesn't end just because you're looking for acceptance. See, Joseph had to go and get sold into slavery. Yeah, he rose above it, but then he went right back to jail. Maybe there could have been an easier way for Joseph to get where he was going. There could have been an easier way to get you to where you want to be. But because you're wanting acceptance, you will do anything to get there. What are you doing to be accepted by people? Are you willing to risk your life because of others? Don't let the enemy seclude you. You'll be sitting in a palace like Tamar for the rest of your life because the enemy is plotting against you. Because you're searching for acceptance in other people. And once you get that acceptance, that's it. There are people who will sit there and go to jail for the rest of their life because they want to join gangs. Because they want to be accepted somewhere. They just want to fit somewhere. I used to run with the gangs. I knew all the gang members. I know. There's people who do the same thing with sororities and fraternities. They allow themselves to get hazed all the time just for acceptance. You allow someone to beat on you, just like in the gangs, they beat on you just to get accepted by somewhere, just to fit somewhere. Something's not going right at home. Things are not going how they're supposed to be. You think they're supposed to be, so you rather allow someone to beat on you to get accepted. See, Jesus doesn't beat on you to accept you. He takes you how you are. Whenever I hear people, talk, they always say, well, what do I have to wear to the church? Can I just come in my jeans, all that other stuff? Yeah, come as you are. God's going to take you as you are, but you're not going to leave as you are, because you'll slowly begin to change. But he's not going to beat you. You can leave the church whenever you feel free. You can leave Jesus whenever you feel free. But the world will tell you to do all these things just to accept you. I recently learned, I've been working so hard for others just to love me. I've been losing my mind. I've been conforming to this world for so long to get other people just to love me. Not really being who I originally was supposed to be when God told me who I was supposed to be in the beginning of time. Now I have to go back and restore myself back to the way God saw me before I let the world corrupt me. All because I was searching for acceptance in other places. See, we damage ourselves in the process because we're looking for acceptance. When God never called us to go through all those things that we went through, but because we're searching for acceptance in the world, and not for acceptance in Christ, we damage ourselves, and now God has to restore us back to where we originally were in the first place. And it's not easy. It's not easy. I find myself all the time, I don't trust people, but I love helping people. That is very hard. Because I just want to love on people, but I don't know how to love. Because I let the world tell me what love was, which was just my body. But God's love is something different. See, the world will make you work for their love. See, I worked for people to love me. I worked for people to accept me. I worked for all this stuff. But God said, no, I'm just going to love you. Because my love is given. My love is given. Where are you seeking acceptance in? Who are you seeking acceptance in? Today is a day of change, and you can give your life to Jesus, and He will accept you and love you how you are. And you don't have to search for acceptance anymore in those things, in the things of this world. And I love you guys, and I pray that today you learn to not conform to what the world has told you you need to be. All right, you guys. Peace.